For years, I thought I knew exactly what to do for my eyes. Every time they felt dry, I reached for the eye drops. Every time the screen blurred after hours of work, I told myself to eat more carrots. That was the advice I grew up with. The advice everyone repeated without questioning, without investigating whether something better might exist just beneath the surface of what we had always been told. But then, something happened that made me stop and reconsider everything. I was sitting at my desk one evening, rubbing my eyes for what felt like the 100th time that day. The familiar gritty sensation was there again, that feeling like tiny grains of sand were trapped beneath my eyelids. My vision kept drifting out of focus. I had already used eye drops twice that afternoon, and the relief lasted maybe 20 minutes before everything returned to the same discomfort. I was tired of temporary solutions. I was tired of reaching for a bottle that fixed nothing, only masked the problem for a few fleeting moments. That night, I asked myself a question I had never truly asked before. What if I had been looking at this completely wrong? That question sent me down a path I did not expect, and what I found genuinely changed the way I think about eye health forever. I started reading, researching, going deeper than the surface-level advice that fills most health articles. And during that process, I came across the work of Dr. Ethan Walker, a specialist in ocular health and visual nutrition who had been studying the relationship between specific dietary compounds and eye function for many years. What struck me immediately about his approach was not just the science he referenced, but the way he framed the entire conversation. He kept returning to one idea that most people never consider, that the eyes are living tissue, constantly under stress, constantly needing protection from the inside, and that the most common approaches to eye care address only the surface while ignoring everything happening beneath it. According to Dr. Ethan Walker, the modern lifestyle has created a perfect storm for deteriorating eye health. We stare at screens for 8, 10, 12 hours a day. We live in environments with artificial lighting that strains our visual system. We eat diets low in the specific nutrients our eyes depend on. And then we wonder why our vision feels unstable, why our eyes dry out before noon, why focusing becomes harder with each passing year. The answer, he explains, is not simply that we need better eye drops. The answer is that we have forgotten to feed our eyes properly. I want to pause here for a moment, because if you are watching this and you recognize any of what I just described, the dry eyes, the blurry spells, the constant need for drops, the fatigue that comes from staring too long at anything, I want you to know that this investigation is for you. These are not random symptoms. They are signals, and understanding what those signals mean is the first step toward actually addressing them. For those who want to better understand how to improve vision, reduce blurry sight, avoid cataracts, and discover which vitamins truly support eye health, we left a complete guide in the first link in the description. It expands naturally on everything we are discussing here. Now back to what I was learning. Dr. Ethan Walker breaks down eye health into 3 foundational pillars: hydration at the cellular level, antioxidant protection, and control of chronic inflammation. When any one of these is compromised, the effects show up in ways that feel familiar to millions of people. Dryness is one of the most common early signs of inadequate ocular hydration and insufficient omega-3 fatty acids in the diet. Blurriness and difficulty sustaining focus can be connected to oxidative stress affecting the lens and retina. That gritty, tired sensation many people feel by afternoon is often a combination of inadequate tear film quality and low-grade inflammation on the ocular surface. What makes this important is that none of these issues are resolved by putting drops in your eyes. Eye drops lubricate the surface temporarily, but they do nothing for the internal environment that determines whether your eyes can produce quality tears naturally, protect the retina from accumulating damage, or maintain the clarity of the lens over time. You can use drops every hour and still be moving steadily toward worse vision, because the root causes continue unchallenged. This is where the discovery that surprised me most comes in. When I first heard Dr. Ethan Walker mention tiny seeds in the context of eye health, I assumed it was a passing comment, a side note, one of those loosely connected suggestions that fill wellness content without real substance. But he was specific. He was citing studies. And the more I followed the thread, the more the evidence accumulated in a way I could not dismiss. The seeds he referred to are chia seeds, and in some contexts, flax seeds as a complementary source. These are not exotic or expensive. They are not rare superfoods available only in specialty stores. They are small, unassuming, often overlooked, and they contain something that the eyes urgently need and that most modern diets are severely deficient in: omega-3 fatty acids, particularly ALA. which the body can partially convert into the forms most active in eye tissue. Here is why this matters so much. The tear film that coats the surface of your eye is not simply water. It has a lipid layer, an oil-based component, that prevents the watery portion of your tears from evaporating too quickly. When the diet is low in healthy fats, particularly omega-3 fatty acids, this lipid layer becomes thin and unstable. Tears evaporate faster. The surface of the eye dries out. And what do people reach for? More drops. More temporary relief. More masking of a problem that begins with nutrition. Chia seeds are one of the richest plant-based sources of omega-3 fatty acids available. 2 tablespoons contain several grams of ALA, along with antioxidants, fiber, and anti-inflammatory compounds that work together in ways that isolated supplements often cannot replicate. Dr. Ethan Walker has noted in multiple discussions that the combination of omega-3 fatty acids and antioxidants found in whole seeds like chia and flax creates a synergistic effect on ocular health, meaning the sum is more powerful than any single component alone. The antioxidant component matters as much as the omega-3s. The retina, which contains the photoreceptor cells responsible for capturing light and sending visual signals to the brain, is one of the highest energy tissues in the entire human body. This means it produces enormous amounts of metabolic byproducts, including reactive oxygen species, molecules that cause oxidative damage if not neutralized. Over time, this oxidative stress is one of the primary mechanisms behind age-related macular degeneration, cataracts, and general deterioration of visual sharpness. Antioxidants from whole foods, including those found in chia seeds, help neutralize this damage before it accumulates. The anti-inflammatory properties add yet another layer of protection. Chronic low-grade inflammation is now recognized as a contributing factor in dry eye disease, in retinal stress, and in the accelerated aging of ocular tissue. Foods rich in omega-3s and polyphenols consistently show up in research as modulators of this inflammatory process, reducing the background noise of cellular stress that the eyes deal with every single day. None of this means you should stop seeing your eye doctor. None of this replaces professional care when it is needed. But what Dr. Ethan Walker emphasizes, and what I came to deeply appreciate through this investigation, is that the conversation about eye health has been unnecessarily narrow for a long time. We talk about what to put on our eyes. We rarely talk about what to put in our bodies to support our eyes from within. And those two conversations are not separate. They are profoundly connected. If you want to learn practical ways to maintain clear vision, reduce eye dryness, and discover the best nutrients to support your eyes naturally, we placed a simple guide in the first link in the description that summarizes everything in a clear and practical way. What this journey taught me goes beyond any single seed or nutrient. It taught me that we have been trained to look for fast solutions to slow problems. Eyes do not dry out overnight. Vision does not blur suddenly without cause. These changes accumulate over months and years, shaped by the daily choices we make about what we eat, how much we sleep, how often we rest our eyes, and whether we give our bodies the materials they need to maintain one of the most complex and precious systems we have. The difference between a person who reaches for eye drops 15 times a day and a person whose eyes stay comfortable and clear well into later life may not come down to genetics or luck. It may come down to whether they understood at some point that the eyes need to be fed, not just treated. Dr. Ethan Walker has made it his work to translate that science into something accessible, something that anyone can begin applying without special equipment or expensive interventions. I came into this investigation with a simple frustration about dry, tired eyes and a vague sense that carrots and eye drops were not the full answer. What I found was a framework for understanding visual health that actually makes sense, one rooted in how the body functions, not just in how symptoms can be suppressed. That framework begins with omega-3 fatty acids, antioxidant protection, and anti-inflammatory nutrition. It begins sometimes with something as small and overlooked as a tiny seed. If this resonated with you, if you recognized your own experience somewhere in this story, I want to invite you to subscribe to this channel. Every video we create here is part of a continuing investigation into health, into the science that gets overlooked, into the small changes that make large differences over time. There is more coming. The conversation about visual health is far from finished, and I want you to be here for every part of it. Subscribe, stay close, and let us keep learning together.